The meeting chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with polished marble and floating holograms. 12 representatives from the most powerful spacefaring civilizations sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of status screens. They were watching Earth's first faster-than-light ship approach their space station. "Primitive design," muttered Representative Wilson of the Star Empire, his long fingers tapping against the marble surface. "Look at those basic ion engines. They'd barely managed to achieve FTL travel." The Earth ship, named Unity, carried Earth's best diplomats. It was small compared to other ships in the sector, but its white hull gleamed with pride. Captain Roberts stood on its bridge, straightening his uniform one last time before transmission. "This is Captain Robert of the Earth vessel Unity, requesting permission to dock," he said, his voice clear and professional. "We come in peace and friendship." The council members exchanged looks of barely hidden amusement. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk, now wanting to run with giants. "Permission granted," replied the council president, her voice carrying the practiced patience of one dealing with lesser beings. "Welcome to galactic civilization." But not everyone watched with mere amusement. In the shadows of a nearby asteroid field, 3 warships of the Stellar Dominion waited. Their admiral, a battle-scarred veteran, viewed humans as something worse than primitive. He saw them as a threat. "These humans," he growled to his crew, "advanced too quickly. 500 years from steam to space. They're dangerous. Better to crush them now." The Unity never saw the attack coming. 3 energy beams struck simultaneously, piercing its simple shields. Captain Robert only had time to send one final message. "Earth, we're under attack. The coordinates are." Static filled the council chamber's speakers. On their screens, the Unity broke apart in silence, debris scattering into the void. 200 of Earth's finest, gone in moments. The council erupted in chaos. "This is outrageous," shouted the Trade Federation representative. "An unprovoked attack. The Stellar Dominion cannot be allowed," began another. The council president raised her hand for silence. "While this incident is unfortunate, we must consider the delicate political balance. The Dominion is a powerful force in our galaxy." Back on Earth, the news hit like a thunderbolt. In the United Earth Defense Chamber, military leaders and politicians watched the recording of Unity's last moments in stunned silence. Admiral James, an old veteran with steel-gray hair, stood before the emergency session of Earth's leadership. "They murdered our people," he said quietly. "And the council does nothing." The world president leaned forward. "What are our options?" "They think we're primitive," Admiral James replied, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Let them keep thinking that. I have a plan, but it will take time, and we'll need to go dark." The vote was unanimous. Within 24 hours, Earth recalled all its representatives. Communications with alien races ceased. Trading posts closed. Earth, it seemed, had retreated in fear. In the council chamber, they received Earth's withdrawal notice with mixed reactions. "As expected," said Wilson smugly. "They realize they're not ready for galactic society. Perhaps in a few centuries." But the representative from the ancient systems, oldest of all council races, looked troubled. "I have seen many young races," she said slowly. "Never have I seen one respond to aggression with silence. They usually rage, threaten, or beg for protection." "You worry too much," Wilson replied. "They're hiding, nothing more." The Ancient One shook her head. "Perhaps, or perhaps they're planning something we cannot imagine. Humans have surprised us before." As the council moved on to other matters, Earth began to change. Deep in secret facilities, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly. Orbital shipyards, hidden from prying eyes, hummed with activity. Earth wasn't cowering. Earth was preparing. And in 5 years, the galaxy would understand just how terrible a mistake they had made. 5 years passed since Earth went silent. In the busy trading port of Station Alpha 7, aliens gathered at the popular Stardust Bar. sharing stories and rumors about the mysterious humans. "Did you hear?" A merchant captain laughed, his drink glowing blue in its glass. "Those humans haven't sent a single ship beyond Mars. They're probably hiding under their beds, afraid of the big bad universe." The bartender, an old trader who had visited Earth before the silence, wiped a glass thoughtfully. "I wouldn't be so sure. Humans are strange creatures. When they go quiet, that's when you should worry most." Nobody paid attention to his warning. At another table, a group of cargo pilots shared their own stories. "My route takes me past their solar system," one said. "Used to see their mining ships around the asteroid belt. Now, nothing. Just empty space." But it wasn't empty. Not really. Deep in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter, automated probes watched every passing ship. Inside the asteroid belt, something massive was happening. Entire asteroids disappeared overnight, their minerals stripped by invisible mining operations. The Council received reports, of course. Their patrol ships noted strange energy readings from Earth's solar system. But after 5 years of silence, most Council members barely glanced at these reports. "Another missing asteroid," Representative Wilson said during a routine meeting. "They're probably building underground bunkers. Let them hide." Only the Ancient One seemed concerned. "In my 1,000 years," she said, "I've learned that prey hides, but predators also go quiet before they strike." Her warning went unheard. On Earth, the changes were incredible. Cities had moved underground, leaving fake ruins above to fool spy satellites. Massive facilities beneath the oceans worked day and night. The moon's dark side had become one giant shipyard, hidden from watching eyes. In his underground office, Admiral James, now showing more gray in his hair, studied the latest progress reports. On his wall hung a piece of the Unity's hull, recovered in secret by Earth's stealth ships. "Status report," he commanded. His assistant, Lieutenant Baker, activated a hologram showing a massive structure taking shape in the hidden shipyards. "The reckoning is 89% complete, sir. Our new shield technology works perfectly. The gravity lance tests exceeded all expectations." And the other ships? 4 more hulls ready for final systems. The mineral processing stations in the belt are working at full capacity. Admiral James nodded, touching the Unity's hull piece. "And our new stealth system?" "Perfect, sir. 3 Council ships passed within visual range of our asteroid mining operations last week. They saw nothing." In the furthest reaches of the solar system, proof of humanity's work was becoming harder to hide. Pluto's orbit had changed slightly, affected by the gravity of massive construction projects. Space itself seemed to bend in strange ways near certain empty regions of space. A junior Council researcher noticed these anomalies. She brought her findings to her superiors, but they dismissed her concerns. "Natural phenomena," they said. "Focus on real threats." But the signs kept mounting. Ships passing near Earth's solar system reported navigation errors. Strange energy spikes appeared and vanished. Meteorites that should have hit planets somehow changed course. In the Stardust Bar, the old bartender noticed fewer merchant ships taking routes near Earth. Captains claimed the navigation was weird in that sector. Some swore they saw massive shadows moving against the stars, but sensor logs showed nothing. "Mark my words," the bartender told his regulars, "something's coming." In his office, Admiral James received the final report he'd been waiting for. "Sir, the reckoning systems are online. Crew training is complete. We're ready." James stood at his window, looking up at the fake ruins above ground. 5 years of silence. 5 years of preparation. 5 years of turning grief into steel and determination. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Operation Revelation begins in 48 hours. Across Earth's hidden facilities, crews moved to their stations. In the dark of space, massive shapes began to stir. The silence was about to end. And the galaxy wasn't ready for what humanity had become. The galaxy's central trade hub buzzed with normal activity. Thousands of ships moved through the busy space lanes, merchants haggled over prices, and Council patrol ships kept watch over it all. No one expected this ordinary day to change galactic history forever. At exactly noon Standard Time, space itself seemed to twist. A massive dark shape emerged from what looked like a tear in reality. Ships scattered like startled fish as proximity alarms screamed across the sector. By the ancient stars, whispered the hub traffic controller. What is that? The HMS Reckoning moved into view, its hull black as space itself. 4 kilometers of advanced technology and weaponry, larger than any warship ever built by the Council races. Its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it look like a moving piece of the void. Admiral James stood on the bridge, his uniform crisp and new. Around him, the crew worked with quiet efficiency at their stations. 5 years of training had prepared them for this moment. "Send the message," he ordered. "All channels, all languages." Across the hub, every communication device sparked to life. In the Council chamber, on merchant ships, in space stations, and on planets, the same message played. "This is Admiral James of the Earth Defense Force Vessel Reckoning. 5 years ago, you murdered our diplomats. You thought we retreated in fear. You were wrong. We come not for war, but to ensure it never happens again." The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representative Wilson, who had dismissed humans as primitives for so long, stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their shield technology. Our sensors can't even understand it. And those weapon systems." The Ancient One leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Now we see what silence birthed. Not fear, preparation." On the Reckoning's bridge, Lieutenant Baker reported, "Sir, we're being scanned by 17 different ships. 3 Council warships are approaching." James nodded calmly. "Activate the gravity field display." Around the massive Earth ship, space visibly distorted. Small rocks and debris began orbiting the Reckoning like 1,000 tiny moons. The approaching Council ships slowed, their captains suddenly unsure. In the Stardust bar, now packed with people watching the news feeds, the old bartender smiled. "Told you so," he said to no one in particular. "When humans go quiet, that's when they're most dangerous." The Council President herself opened an emergency channel to the Reckoning. Her image appeared on the bridge's main screen, trying to maintain dignity despite her clear shock. "Admiral James," she said, "this demonstration is concerning. Perhaps we can discuss." "With respect, Madam President," James interrupted, "we're not here for discussions. We're here to show you what humanity can do. The Reckoning carries weapons you haven't imagined, defensive systems you thought impossible. And it's not even our most advanced ship." The silence that followed his words was deafening. In orbit around various planets, hidden sensors activated, revealing dozens of smaller Earth ships that had been watching, invisible, for years. The galaxy began to understand just how completely they had underestimated humanity. "Our terms are simple," James continued. "Earth will join the galactic community as an equal. No more dismissing us as primitives. No more unanswered attacks on our ships. And the Stellar Dominion will answer for their crimes." On the Council station, Wilson turned to the Ancient One. "How did we not see this coming? How did they advance so fast?" She smiled sadly. "You forgot the most important rule of the galaxy. Those who seem weakest often carry the most surprising strengths." The Reckoning hung in space, its mere presence changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Its gravity field pulled at nearby ships like a small moon. Its weapons remained ready but quiet. Its hull absorbed scan after scan without revealing its secrets. Admiral James looked at the piece of the Unity's hull, now mounted on the Reckoning's bridge. "Send the secondary message," he ordered. Across the galaxy, communication officers received a simple set of coordinates and a time. Earth wasn't finished with its revelations. The real demonstration was yet to come. 3 days after the Reckoning's appearance, the Stellar Dominion finally responded to humanity's challenge. 30 warships emerged from hyperspace, their golden hulls gleaming against the darkness. Each ship was a veteran of countless battles, covered in weapon ports and battle scars. "Look at the primitives' toy," Admiral Stone of the Dominion sneered, watching the Reckoning float alone in space. "One ship against 30. This won't even be entertaining." On the Reckoning's bridge, Admiral James watched the enemy fleets approach. The crew remained calm, their 5 years of training showing in their steady hands and focused eyes. "Sir," Lieutenant Baker reported, "Dominion fleet is launching fighters. Count is 300 small craft incoming." James nodded. "Let them come closer. Let everyone see what happens next." The galaxy watched. Every screen, every observation post, every ship in range turned their sensors toward the coming battle. In the council chamber, even the usually chatty representatives fell silent. "Tactical display on," James ordered. A hologram filled the bridge, showing the approaching enemy fleet as red dots. The fighters moved first, spreading out in an attack pattern that had won the Dominion countless battles. "Enemy fighters in range," Baker announced. "They're launching missiles." James touched a control on his chair. "Activate point defense system." What happened next made veteran space captains drop their drinks. Thousands of tiny lights appeared around the Reckoning, forming patterns like moving constellations. Each light was a drone, smaller than a human but carrying advanced targeting systems. The Dominion missiles never got close. The drones intercepted them with precise energy beams, creating a fireworks display of explosions. Not a single missile reached the Reckoning shields. In the Stardust Bar, the crowds watching the battle feeds cheered. The old bartender just nodded, as if he'd expected nothing less. "Impossible." Admiral Stone slammed his fist on his command chair. "All ships, open fire. Full barrage." 30 capital ships fired their main weapons simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma bolts raced toward the Earth vessel, enough firepower to crack a small moon. James waited until the last second. Gravity lance. The space around the Reckoning distorted. The incoming fire bent away from the ship, curving like light around a black hole. But that wasn't the real surprise. The distortion expanded outward in a narrow beam, invisible except for how it bent light. When it touched the first Dominion ship, the vessel crumpled like paper. Its own gravity turned against it, crushing metal and energy shields alike. "By the ancients," whispered the council president, watching from her chamber. "What have they created?" One by one, the Dominion ships tried to retreat. Some managed to turn, their engines flaring bright as suns, but the Reckoning wasn't finished. Its drones swarmed forward, not attacking but disabling engines and weapons with surgical precision. In 10 minutes, it was over. 30 ships hung dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. 300 fighters floated powerless, their pilots watching in shock as the primitive humans had defeated them without a single casualty. Admiral Stone's voice shook as he opened a channel to the Reckoning. We surrender." "Accepted," James replied simply. "Your crews will be rescued. You will face trial for your attacks on peaceful vessels, including the Unity." In the council chamber, Representative Wilson turned to the Ancient One. How did they advance so far in just 5 years?" She smiled mysteriously. "They didn't. Think, young one. Such technology takes decades to develop. They had it all along. They were never primitive. They were just cautious. Until you gave them reason not to be." On the Reckoning's bridge, James received a priority message from Earth. He read it and allowed himself a small smile. "Send word to all ships," he ordered. "Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. Lieutenant Baker looked up from her station. "Sir, there's more." James touched the Unity's hull piece, still mounted on the wall. "The Dominion wasn't the real threat. It never was. We built the Reckoning for something far worse." Across the galaxy, sensors began picking up strange readings from deep space. Something was coming. The real test of humanity's new weapons was about to begin. The Council's emergency session was the largest gathering in 500 years. Representatives from every spacefaring race crowded the Great Chamber. Holograms of the Reckoning's battle played on huge screens, showing again and again how one Earth ship had defeated 30 Dominion warships. "The humans must share their technology," shouted one representative, pounding his fist on the marble table. "For the good of the galaxy." "Share," another laughed bitterly. "Why should they? We treated them like children." The Ancient One sat quietly, watching the chaos. Besides her, an empty chair waited. Earth's chair, unused for 5 years, would soon be filled again. The chamber doors opened. Admiral James entered, followed by 2 Earth officers. The room fell silent as he walked to the center platform. His footsteps echoed in the huge space. "Representatives of the galaxy," he began, his voice clear and strong. "5 years ago, you watched our diplomats die. Today, you watched our response. But there's something you need to know. The Reckoning wasn't built for the Dominion." He pressed a button on his wrist device. A new hologram appeared above the chamber. It showed a massive star map with strange energy readings coming from the galactic edge. 3 months before the Unity was destroyed, James continued, our deep space sensors detected something. Something ancient. Something hostile. The Council President leaned forward. "What are you saying, Admiral?" "We've decoded fragments of ancient warnings, a race of beings that consume entire stars. They hibernate for millions of years, then wake to feed. And they're waking up." Panic spread through the chamber. Representatives turned to their advisors, checking data, confirming Earth's claims. The Ancient One stood slowly, her eyes wide. "The Devourers," she whispered. "The old stories. They were true." James nodded. "We found your records of their last appearance. 2 million years ago. They destroyed a third of the galaxy. Your ancestors barely survived. And now they're coming back." He pressed another button. New holograms appeared, showing more Earth ships. Larger than the Reckoning, different in design, built for specific purposes. The Reckoning was a test platform. James explained. "These are our real defenders. The shield, designed to protect entire solar systems. The spear, built to fight the Devourers in their own space. And others, each with its own purpose." Representative Wilson, who had once mocked Earth as primitive, found his voice. How many ships have you built?" "Enough to defend the galaxy, if we work together." The Council President spoke carefully. "You're offering to help us, after how we treated you." James smiled slightly. Earth remembers its friends, and its enemies. But humanity's first duty is to protect life. All life. He walked to Earth's empty chair and sat down. "We offer an alliance. Equal partners. Share our defensive technology, coordinate our forces, prepare together. The Devourers are still months away. We have time, if we use it wisely." The Ancient One spoke up. "And if we refuse, then Earth will fight alone, as we've prepared to do for 5 years. But the losses will be significant." The chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives huddled in groups, arguing, calculating, deciding. But they all knew there was only one real choice. The Council President stood. "We accept Earth's alliance, and we apologize for our past mistakes." James nodded. "Accepted. Now let me show you what else we've built." New holograms appeared, showing massive space stations hidden in Earth's asteroid belt. Shipyards bigger than cities. Defensive platforms that could move planets. "By the stars," someone whispered. They weren't just building weapons. They were preparing for war. The Ancient One smiled. "Not just war. Survival. For all of us." Outside the Council Station, the Reckoning floated like a dark guardian. But now everyone knew it wasn't alone. More Earth ships were emerging from hiding, taking up defensive positions. Humanity had revealed its strength. Now came the harder task, teaching the galaxy how to fight what was coming. the real war was about to begin. Long-range sensors across the galaxy lit up with warnings. Deep space telescopes showed massive objects moving through the darkness between stars. The Devourers were no longer just an ancient story. They were real, and they were coming. In the Combined Fleet Command Center on Earth's largest space station, Admiral James stood before representatives from 30 different species. Behind him, massive screens showed the approaching threat. "This," he said, pointing to dark shapes larger than small moons, "is what we've been preparing to fight." The aliens watched in horror as a video played, showing a Devourer ship consuming an uninhabited star. The massive creature machine hybrid literally broke the star apart, absorbing its energy and matter. "How do you fight something that eats stars?" asked the Dominion's new admiral, his former arrogance replaced by fear. James pressed a button, revealing detailed scans. "The Devourers aren't invincible. They're just very, very old and very hungry, but they have weaknesses." Lieutenant Baker stepped forward with more data. "Their outer shell is nearly impossible to breach," she explained, "but their feeding process makes them vulnerable. They have to open up to consume a star." In orbit above Earth, the Reckoning joined a fleet of new ships. The Shield, twice the size of the Reckoning, carried the most powerful defensive systems ever built. The Spear, longer and sharper in design, housed weapons specifically designed to pierce Devourer armor. Earth's gravity lance technology, James continued, was developed after studying ancient records of their attacks. "It's the key to fighting them. But we need more than weapons. We need coordination." The next hour was spent teaching alien fleet commanders about Earth's battle plans. Ships would fight in mixed groups, combining different species' strengths. Earth's advanced technology would protect them all. "Sir," a sensor operator called out suddenly. "First contact. A Devourer scout ship just entered the Arcturus system." Everyone watched the main screen. An Earth defense fleet, led by the Shield, moved to intercept. The Devourer ship was enormous, its dark surface covered in patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. "Watch carefully," James ordered. "This is what we've trained for." The battle that followed changed everyone's understanding of space warfare. The Shield projected a gravity field that bent the Devourer's energy weapons back on themselves. Smaller Earth ships darted in and out, their gravity lances striking at specific points. For the first time in millions of years, a Devourer ship was wounded. "Impossible." The Ancient One's voice shook with emotion. "In all our records, none ever damaged them before." The Devourer tried to retreat, but the Spear moved into position. Its main weapon, powered by an artificial gravity well, fired a beam of concentrated spacetime distortion. The Devourer's shell cracked like an egg. "All ships," James commanded, "finishing strike." 30 ships, Earth and alien alike, fired together. The Devourer scout disappeared in a flash of light that briefly rivaled the sun. Cheers erupted in the command center, but James raised his hand for silence. "That was a scout," he said grimly. "One of the smallest. The main fleet carries ships 50 times that size, and there are hundreds of them." The room grew quiet again. On the screens, more dots appeared, representing the approaching Devourer fleet. "But now we know they can be killed," the Dominion admiral said, newfound respect in his voice. "Earth's weapons work." James nodded. "Yes, but we need more ships. More weapons, more trained crews, and we have 6 months before they reach populated space." He turned to the gathered representatives. "Each of your species has unique strengths. The Dominion's targeting systems, the Trade Federation's shield harmonics, the Ancient One's sensor technology. Combined with Earth's gravity weapons, we can win, but only together." The Ancient One stood. 2 million years ago, our ancestors fought alone, and nearly died alone. This time will be different. Across the galaxy, shipyards began building Earth-designed vessels. Crews trained day and night on new weapons. The galaxy united as it never had before. And in deep space, the Devourers approached, unaware that this time their prey was ready for them. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had given the galaxy a fighting chance. The final battle began at the edge of inhabited space. 300 devourer ships, each large enough to swallow a moon, faced the combined fleet of the galaxy. Leading them was the Reckoning, now bearing scars from dozens of battles. All ships, battle positions. Admiral James commanded from the Reckoning's bridge. Around him, crew members from 20 different species worked together, each bringing their unique skills to humanity's most advanced warship. The Devourers moved first. Their massive ships opened like dark flowers, preparing to consume the nearest star. But this was exactly what the fleet had trained for. "Execute pattern Earth," James ordered. "All ships, remember your training." The shield moved forward, its advanced gravity fields protecting the smaller ships. The spear took up position behind it, its main weapon charging. Hundreds of ships from every species in the galaxy formed up around them, each knowing their role. "They're powering weapons," Lieutenant Baker reported. Her alien assistant, a former Dominion officer, confirmed the readings. The space between the fleets lit up with energy as the Devourers attacked. But this time, the galaxy was ready. The shield's gravity field caught the enemy fire and twisted it back. Smaller ships darted through the protection, their Earth-designed weapons striking with surgical precision. "First group, breach confirmed," came the report. "Devourer shields failing in Sector 7. In the council chamber, representatives watched the battle through live feeds. The Ancient One gripped her chair tightly. "Look," she whispered, "they're actually hurting them." The Devourers had never faced an organized defense before. For millions of years, they had simply consumed what they wanted. Now, for the first time, their prey was fighting back effectively. A Devourer ship larger than all the others moved forward. The fleet's sensors identified it as the leader, the oldest and most powerful of their kind. "All ships," James commanded, "clear the center. Reckoning, full power to gravity lance." The Reckoning's main weapon powered up, drawing energy from a dozen supporting ships. The Devourer leader opened its shell, revealing its ancient core. Fire. The gravity lance struck true, its beam magnified by the combined power of the fleet. The Devourer leader's shell cracked, then shattered. Its death lit up space like a new sun being born. The effect on the other Devourers was immediate. For the first time in their ancient existence, they felt fear. "They're retreating," Baker shouted. Multiple ships breaking formation. But James had planned for this too. Spring the trap. From behind nearby stars, more fleets emerged. Ships that had hidden using Earth's stealth technology now revealed themselves, cutting off the Devourers' escape routes. "All ships," James ordered, "finishing strike. Pattern unity." The name was no accident. Every ship in the galaxy's fleet fired together, their weapons synchronized using Earth's targeting systems. The Devourers, caught between two forces, fell one by one. In the council chamber, cheers erupted as the battle feeds showed victory after victory. Species that had once been enemies now celebrated together. Hours later, it was over. The last Devourer ship vanished in a final flash of light. The galaxy had won. On the Reckoning's bridge, James touched the piece of the Unity's hull, still mounted on the wall. "This is for you," he whispered to those who had died 5 years ago. The Ancient One's voice came over the command channel. "Humanity has done more than save us," she said. "You've united us, taught us to fight together, to trust each other." The council president spoke next. Earth's chair in the council will now be joined by a new position. "Admiral James, we ask you to become the first commander of the combined Galactic Defense Force." James looked at his crew, humans and aliens working side by side. "We accept," he said. "But not just me. All of Earth. All of humanity. We'll help build this new galaxy together." As cleanup ships moved to clear the battlefield, the Reckoning turned toward home. Behind it, ships from every species followed, no longer in fear, but in friendship and respect. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never again would they underestimate humanity. And never again would any species have to face threats alone. A new age had begun, born from the day Earth's battleship appeared and the galaxy held its breath.